would be sufficient to get a special counsel assigned. And you say it really was a personal diary. As if anyone at the FBI routinely, if ever, sends his or her diary, as you did, to the Deputy Director of the FBI, the Chief of Staff, and the FBI's legal counsel. And Jim, you say the guy you admire most in government is good old James Clapper, the guy who doesn't leak or surveil us wittingly. He's another liar and a leaker who, like you, hates Donald Trump. This bozo, like you, flatly denied leaking the dossier. He even released a statement to the public that he assured the incoming president that neither he nor anyone in the intel community was responsible for the leak, and he expressed his profound dismay at such and described the corrosive effects that leaks have on our national security. Meanwhile, this weasel told you to tell the president about the dossier at the same time that he appears before a congressional committee flatly denying he leaked the dossier to the committee. And he has the chutzpah to criticize Donald Trump, saying the intel community was under assault by the president. But lo and behold, according to the House Intel Committee, he later had to admit he told Jake Tapper, CNN, other journalists about the dossier himself before Trump's inauguration, and now he's on CNN's payroll. And tonight, isn't this sweet? As we speak, Jake Tapper and Clapper are getting an award at the White House Correspondents' Dinner for the report about the dossier, which Clapper lied to Congress about and said he never leaked, but which we now know he leaked to CNN, for which everybody's getting an award. Jim, you're part of an anti-Trump conspiracy, violating the fundamental rules of your own agency. And don't think that because you were a big shot at the FBI that you can dispel the rules to suit your own and your family's own political agenda. Power, Jim, don't ever forget it. Power is rented. And you, my friend, have been evicted. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, # Judge Jeanine. And joining me now with reaction to my opening statement, as well as reaction to the president's massive rally in Michigan, the one, the only conservative commentator, Mark Stein. All right, good evening, Mark.
Hey, good to see you, Jeanine. And that was a cracking open and helps explain exactly why you're #1 every weekend. That was terrific stuff.
Thank you, Mark. You know, I think the thing that is so frustrating to me as someone who was in law enforcement for over 3 decades is that, you know, we live in a world of television where the answers are a few seconds long and then you have to move to the next question. I just want my viewers to understand this is such hogwash and it's so frustrating. And my worry, and maybe it's yours, is that there will be no consequences. What do you think?
I think there will be consequences. You know, whatever it was a week ago, the Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein told President Trump, "You're not a target of the investigation." If I'd been the president, I'd have replied to him, "No, you got that right. You guys are. It's actually the Department of Justice and the FBI and a tight little coterie, including other key figures in the intelligence agencies like Clapper and Brennan, who are at issue here. And they are all in severe legal peril. And Comey in particular has a credibility issue. He organizes a meeting with the president-elect for the purpose of telling him a lot of hooey about hookers in Moscow. And then he claims to Bret Baier that he had no idea about the provenance of this dossier. He doesn't know who paid for it or anything like that. He's the head of the most lavishly funded investigative agency on the planet, but he knows nothing. He's a Boy Scout. He hasn't a clue about any of it.
And you know, Mark,
you know as well as I do, if he was on the witness stand in a courtroom before you, what a jury would make of that guy's credibility.
And you know, to say he didn't know who own paid for it when he basically affirmed it 4 times every time it went to the FISA court. And he says he didn't know from whence it came. And he won't admit, as his deputy did, that it was the main piece of the application of the FISA, the main piece of the request for the FISA warrant. He says it was part of a mosaic. You know, I felt like I was in La La Land. But listen, I want to talk now for a moment about the president. And there's a sound I want you to hear. Take a listen.
You watch Comey, and you watch the way he lies. And then he's got the memos. I wonder when he wrote the memos, right? Then he's got the memos, and he puts them up. Watch the way he lies. It's the most incredible thing. Do you remember John Lovitz? Do you remember? The liar. Well, Comey's worse. Comey's a liar and a leaker.
A liar and a leaker. You remember John Lovitz, the guy from Saturday Night Live? And it was called, I think, The Liar.
Right, that's right, that's right. It's a terrific segment. You know, this is the president in his element, though, and this is why tone is important, and this is what a lot of Trump critics, both on the left and right, Republicans and Democrats, miss, is that the base has been longing for years about somebody who punches back. George W. Bush, in the early part of this century, took the high road. Democrats trashed him. You had Democratic senators comparing what he was doing in Iraq to the behavior of Nazis. And George W. Bush took the high road and said nothing. And the Republican base has wanted for years a spokesman who smashes back. And that's important. And for that very reason, the base will stick with him, because he doesn't play on the left's terms.
Well, you know, Mark, very well said. Mark Steyn, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Hey, always a pleasure, Judge.
All right. And more from the president's rally ahead with Governor Mike Huckabee and Joe Concha. And next, CRTV host Michelle Malkin on that Trump rally. James.
Because the economy is so good. The economy is so good.
Wow. Talk about firing up the base. President Trump wrapping up a major rally speech a short time ago in Michigan, a state that was key to his presidential victory. CRTV host Michelle Malkin joins me live here in New York. It's good to have you here, Michelle.
Thanks for having me, Judge.
Your reaction to the president tonight?
I thought this was fantastic. It was brilliant staging. You've got the president in Washington Township, Michigan, a state that had been lost by Republicans for so many years. He smashed all the records. More people cast their votes for President Trump in that election in 2016 than any other presidential candidate in history. And there you have him talking directly to the people, talking directly about what they care about, not what the poobahs in the Fourth Estate, who are now all patting each other on the back in their narcissism fest, the annual White House correspondents that are getting awards for propagating more propaganda and fake news.
Well, you know, if you're my open, Clapper lies to Congress. He leaks the dossier to Tapper. Now they're all getting an award for it and slapping each other on the back.
Clapper, Tapper, in the crapper.
Well said, Michelle. You are quick. Let's talk about James Comey just for a second.
You were right. Absolutely, you're open. Comey is a liar, a leaker, and a left-wing weasel. Not just a weasel, a crap weasel. Comey is a liar. Clapper is a liar. Brennan is a liar. This is a triumvirate of treachery. They've been completely exposed. They're going to keep spinning. They're going to keep digging in their heels and doubling down on that hole. And what more do they need? The House Intel Committee came out with a conclusion that we all know was more confirmation than revelation. There is no collusion other than the collusion between this revolving door between the deep state and the liberal media that puts these people on as pundits after they leak all of this information.
It is amazing. It really is. But I want you to take a listen to some sound that we have about the border, the president talking about the border.
The open border policies of the Democratic Party are not just wrong, they're dangerous, and they're, in fact, deadly. They're deadly. They make no sense. They're deadly. Their policies let gangs, some of the most vicious gangs in the world, pour into our country. They pour into our country. Do you know on Long Island, you have gang members that are so tough that we send in these incredible ICE agents. But you know what? The ICE agents are much tougher.
You know, he's obviously referring to MS-13 and all of the very violent crime that we've been witness to. I mean, what does the president have to do? You know, right now he is not able to build the wall, although he says he's building the wall. He got $1.6 billion, but he needs a lot more than that.
Yeah, I think we've reached a tipping point. I started my career in Los Angeles in the newspaper industry in the early 1990s, where the first grassroots immigration enforcement movement really began, because it was Californians who were the bellwether, who were the canary in the coal mine. And look at the state has gone into the toilet. Jerry Brown and the radical Attorney General Xavier Becerra, they might as well secede, okay? Yeah. Because these people have betrayed every last principle of our constitutional republic. That's why people are fleeing California. Everybody's eyes have been opened now, and there has been no candidate in the history of this country who has been more vocal than President Trump was, left or right.
What can he
do?
There's
got to be a groundswell, and he's doing everything that he can in Washington, D.C., but this has to be a nationwide movement. People have to take control in their own states and localities, and that's why we have now this counter-revolution within California. You've got a scattering of these counties that are saying we are not a sanctuary outlaw state, and they're trying to reclaim it. We need to have people who believe the same things that President Trump believes elected in local and state offices.
I think we may be seeing more of that. Michelle Malkin, thanks so much for being with us. Good to have you here in New York. So, did the president hit the mark tonight? Governor Mike Huckabee's take still ahead. And next, two people who likely won't agree on the president's performance on stage in Michigan. Fox News contributors Sarah Carter and radio talk show host Chris Hahn. The panel that does battle best. Next.
Suspected cop killer in Maine arrested Saturday after 4 days on the run. The accused killer, John Williams, has a criminal record spanning 3 states. He was due in court this week for firearms charges and has a history of drug offenses. The slain officer, Somerset County Sheriff's Corporal Eugene Cole, is the 25th police officer to die in the line of duty in the U.S. this year, and the first officer killed in Maine since 1989. And more than 60 women who currently or formerly worked at NBC News have come out in support of veteran NBC News anchor Tom Brokaw, 2 days after being accused of sexual misconduct. The accuser, Linda Vester, says he sexually harassed her on the job in the 90s. Vester was also an anchor here at Fox News Channel. Brokaw denies the allegations. I'm Marianne Rafferty. Now back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
Comey's worse. Comey's a liar and a leaker. You know, I did you a great favor when I fired this guy. I tell you, I did you a great favor. Because when you look at what was going on at the top of the FBI, it is a disgrace, and everybody in this room understands it. The lovers, the 2 lovers, right? Lisa and Strzok. Lisa and Peter, the 2 lovers, what they said, what was going on. Look at how many of those top officials were fired or removed, and they should be out of here.
Welcome back to Justice. President Trump firing up the crowd in Michigan and firing up my panel for tonight. So let's get right to it. Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, former aide to Chuck Schumer, radio show host Chris Hahn. All right, Chris, you have to admit the president is right. Combs gone. McCabe is gone. Rubicki is gone. The Baker is gone. Strzok and Page are only still there because they're cooperating, according to a well-placed source that Sarah Carter has. So doesn't it sound to you like it's a bit of a dirty upper echelon in the FBI?
You know, all this talk about lying and leaking. Look, I think we have far too much classified information in this country. I said it during the Obama administration, during the Bush administration. So what Comey put out there didn't seem to violate any national security. It might have embarrassed the president politically, but it was hardly a leak. In fact, the FBI director could put out whatever memo he wants. He could declassify anything. There was nothing classified in there. So to call the leaker, you know.
Go ahead, Sarah.
No, not so, Chris. Chris, that is not so. That was property of the FBI. He leaked it. Why didn't he just come out himself and say it? Why all the runaround, Chris? Why did he have to give it to Richmond, then have Richmond give it to the New York Times? He leaked it, and he knows he leaked it, and he knows he violated the law, and now he knows he's going to have to pay for it. And let me tell you something else.
It would only be a violation of the law if there was something classified in that memo.
You're wrong. You're wrong, Chris.
He's very wrong.
What was classified in that memo?
It doesn't have to be classified to be illegal to remove something that is FBI material.
Baloney, Sarah. The FBI that is not classified.
Look, Chris, he could have talked about it all he wanted with Congress. He chose not to. He could have talked about it in his book about his conversations. He did not need to leak those memos. And we don't know a lot about Richmond. We don't know what his role was at the FBI. And believe me, if he was a special government employee of the FBI, he was under the FBI. He was not Comey's personal little puppet to leak everything he wanted to as well to him. And another point, and I want to bring this up, Judge, because this is very important. He lied about that dossier and about knowing who paid for it or he was just inept, because he signed the FISA warrant. He signed one of the FISA warrants on Carter Page, and we know that the dossier was the bulk of some of those FISA warrants, all of them actually.
Who paid for it? How come, Sarah, we never talk about the Washington Free Beacon and Republican candidates paying for the dossier originally? We never talk about that part of it.
Chris, stop. Wait a minute, Sarah. Sarah, wait. Chris, stop trying to change the topic. The issue is whether or not Jim Comey leaked. And whether it's classified or unclassified is not the issue. If you listen to my open, it is a violation of the Federal Records Act. Absolutely. And the reason that people have to get approval from a court to get a 302. This guy isn't God. He can't change the rules as he goes along because he wants to sell a book.
I would love to see a prosecutor bring that case. I doubt
well, okay,
anything would
speaking
come
of that, let's take a listen to the president. Listen.
If our Justice Department was doing the right thing, they'd be a lot tougher right now on those people, because there's tremendous crime and corruption on the other side.
All right, so is the Justice Department going to do anything? Sarah.
I believe, yes, Judge Jeanine, I do believe they will. They are right now. Remember, this has started since last year, in the fall of last year, when Attorney General Jeff Sessions put John Huber in charge of this. They are collecting information. I've heard they've been paneled to grand jury. They're going to be looking at Clapper and the leaks. This is about weaponizing the intelligence community. This is about disinformation on the White House, on the administration, on a sitting president of the United States of America. Yeah. These are people that are willing to spread lies and disinformation based on a salacious dossier that they have never proved anything in that dossier.
Go ahead, Chris. Chris, go ahead.
Well, Cohen was probably in Prague, and that was one of the things they were hanging their hat on. So let's see what happens with that.
Stay with the issue.
But the president, hold on, Sarah. Okay. The president of the United States should not be calling for anybody to be prosecuted. That is completely inappropriate.
That's within this. Is it appropriate? It's inappropriate for Brennan, for Clapper, for Comey to go out there and spread lies and disinformation. In fact, they are aiding and abetting the Russians in the Russians' disinformation campaign.
Proven to be a lie here. In fact, Comey talked about his own conversations and his impression from there. And in fact, those memos basically back up what he said to Congress and back up what he wrote in his book. Now, I am no fan of Jim Comey. You know that. I think he gave Trump the election, and I think he's intervened in politics far too much for an FBI director. But that memo doesn't seem to disprove or call him a liar.
And he's highly partisan, and he leaked memos that belong to the FBI. He could have talked about it. He didn't need to do the runaround, Chris.
Okay, the only thing that's been proven, guys, Chris Hahn, Sarah Carter, we're running out of time. We're going to save you for next time. All right, the governor is on deck. Mike Huckabee joins me next to talk about tonight's rally and much more. So don't go away.
I think we deliver real, honest, strong opinion day after day, night after night on Fox, and the viewers expect that. They know with me they're going to get a straight shooter, no holds barred. I'm not going to cut people slack, but I'll also be fair. It's a place where we have real debate and...
Sources. They never say who the source is. They don't have sources. The sources don't exist in many cases. They don't have sources, and the sources in many cases don't exist. These are very dishonest people, many of them. They are very, very dishonest people.
President Trump not holding back tonight on any topic, giving a rip-roaring speech at a rally in Michigan. Here with reaction, former Arkansas governor and Fox News contributor. Now, I have to tell you, Governor Mike Huckabee, I thought it was interesting, that last sound that we just heard. He said, these people, these people are not fair people. They're they give you fake news. He went on his rip for a while. Now, tonight, ironically, is the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where the media gets together and they slap each other on the back. What say you about that?
You know, it's a room full of people who are hugging themselves so tightly it's a miracle they can breathe. It's got to be one of the most phony things that ever happened. There's more authenticity at a wax museum than there is at one of these dinners. I hate these things because it's just such a self-congratulatory orgy of emotion, of feeling like we are the world. And what I think the president did by going to Washington, Michigan tonight was to say, you guys in the press corps, you're not my people. These are my people. And it was a beautiful juxtaposition of why Donald Trump is president and why his approval ratings are actually climbing. And I know that's driving some of the people in that dinner absolutely nuts.
You know, I love when the president talked about it. He said, you know, they said there was going to be a nuclear holocaust, there was going to be nuclear war, and yet there he is. And, you know, and the audience got it. But, you know, I'd like to talk to you about Maxine Waters. All right, so the president talks about Maxine. I don't know if we have that sound. Okay, let's hit it.
If you listen to Maxine Waters... She goes around saying, we will impeach him. We will impeach him. Then people said, but he hasn't done anything wrong. Oh, that doesn't matter. We will impeach the president.
Your take?
Well, I just think it's amazing that the Democrats continue to talk about impeaching a president that has no impeachable reasons and crimes. I mean, this is insane. I hope they keep that message up, because they're exposing themselves for trying to realize or trying to somehow forget that the way you get rid of a political figure you don't like is to elect somebody else. You don't weaponize everything that a person does. And that's what they're trying to do. And it makes them look utterly foolish when they do it.
Well, you know what's interesting, though, that, you know, the more they talk like this, I mean, you know, the crazier they sound, honestly. I mean, especially when the Intel Committee from the House came out and said there's absolutely there's no Russian collusion. And Adam Schiff is still, you know, he's got his tinfoil hat on. He's waiting for the Russians to communicate with him and tell him for sure the president was colluding. But, you know, you have to look at this president and say the guy works 24/7. He works nonstop. He's doing all this stuff that he talked about tonight, and they're still talking about impeaching him. You wonder, where does he get the get up and go to get up and go?
You know, it's one thing, though, for Maxine Waters to say this, but earlier today I was listening to some commentator, a Democrat operative, and a person was interviewing her on one of the other networks. And here's what I found interesting. They kept saying, there's a good chance Donald Trump won't even be in office a year from now. And when called out about it, they continue to try to defend these ridiculous statements. Now, that's maybe wishful thinking on their part, but it's dangerous thinking to try to put in the heads of the American people that this is a president that won't fulfill his entire term and probably a second one. And that's what concerns me. You know, in all the years that Obama was president, I didn't agree with a lot of his policies, but I never thought that the way that President Obama should end his term is somehow to have a bunch of lies told about him so that then we would just get rid of him, not because he was unelected or had done a crime, but because we just didn't like it. That's just not the way the system works. That's what you do in banana republics. It's not what you do in the United States of America.
But, you know, Governor, sometimes when I look at the FBI and how they were acting in the intel community, you know, I think that there are some people out there who actually buy that lunacy, but hopefully that will all come to an end. And one quick question. Did you see that Grazie's committee, they let out that bill so that the president, out of judiciary, the president can't fire Mueller? What'd you think of that?
Well, it's absurd. Of course he can fire Mueller. I don't think he should because it would be politically
Yeah, but
disastrous.
why would a Republican let that out of
Mueller
committee?
works for the executive branch.
Yep.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing that some of these Republicans, I think, are more interested in protecting Mueller than they are in protecting the President of the United States. That is disgusting.
All right, Governor Mike Huckabee, thanks so much for being with us. And more from the president.
Always a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Correspondence. Is this more fun? I could be up there tonight smiling like I love where they're hitting you shot after shot. These people, they hate your guts. Shot. And then I'm supposed to... And you know, you got to smile. And if you don't smile, they'll say, he was terrible, he couldn't take it. And if you do smile, they'll say, what was he smiling about? You know, there's no way.
The president holds a rally in Michigan and opts to once again skip the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Joe Concha, media reporter for The Hill, joins me now. All right, Joe, the president, he's right. I mean, he sits there, he can laugh. He doesn't laugh, he's going to be criticized. But he said, look, I'd rather be with the people, as he is there in Michigan. Your take?
I think, Judge, yeah, that some people would say, many people would say that he's at his best when he's at rallies like that sort of campaigning. He seems like he's at his most comfortable, most happy place when he's doing those sort of rallies. And look, Roger Ailes used to say, and obviously he's the late former CEO and chairman of Fox News, that television is a visual medium. And many times tonight, if you watched your televisions, there was a split screen. On one side, you have the president in Washington, not Washington, D.C., but Washington, Michigan, talking to working class people at a rally in a state that he had no business winning in terms of the blue wall coming down, and that was Michigan, obviously Wisconsin, Pennsylvania coming down with that as well. On the other side, you have, and I was at the Washington White House Correspondents' Dinner last year. You know, I was in my tuxedo. I was drinking my champagne. I was with other journalists. But the way that looks, if you compare the two on television, is only good for President Trump because so many people distrust the media right now and see them as out of touch, in the swamp, and most importantly, people that are elite and can't relate to working class people in places like Michigan. So this was, again, a very good move by the president. He did it last year in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And what can you say? I mean, that was a smart move. He certainly wouldn't be well served going to the White House Correspondents' Dinner where he'd probably be mocked the entire evening. That we've seen before, and that would probably happen again. Yeah.
You know, I want to move on to something else, and that has to do with the little spat this week. Kanye West saying good things about the president, and that they both have, what was it, dragon energy? I forget what the energy was.
It wasn't tiger blood. It was definitely dragon energy. Tiger blood is Charlie Sheen. Let's make that clear.
Dragon energy. All right, and then the left going ballistic. It was almost like McCarthyism. You cannot say anything that is against our groupthink, or we're going to throw you out of the club. I think we may have some sound on that.
Okay.
And by the way, in all fairness, Kanye West gets it. He gets it. He gets it. And he saw that. When he sees that African-American unemployment is the lowest in history, you know, people are watching. That's a very important thing he's done for his legacy. It's a very important thing.
And you know what? No matter how they pushed back at Kanye, he didn't care. He doubled down. I hear he has a song today, He versus the People, is something where he doubles down.
Well, good for him, because Kanye West was called crazy. People were actually questioning his mental health as a result of saying that he supported President Trump. Stephen Colbert did it. If that's the case, Judge, if everybody's crazy, if you support President Trump, that means, and I counted it up, 62,979,879 people who voted for him in 2016 are also crazy. And we've seen this argument used against the president himself on many occasions. And look, remember last year, over the summer, about this time, where the president was talking about Kim Jong-un and how there's going to be a fire and fury bestowed upon him like never before. And people said, that's crazy. You're going to start World War III. Well, where are we now? We have North Korea and South Korea talking at a summit just this week. And that peninsula could be denuclearized as a result. So is he crazy or what? So, yeah, to criticize Kanye West, to your point, is absolutely ridiculous to say he's crazy when he's just simply being on principle. I know you got to go. Sorry about that. I got to go myself. Have a good Saturday.